incredible story of a German shepherd who refused to leave his owner's grave for an astonishing 28 days. The dog waited patiently by his owner's grave every day, refusing to eat or drink, until one night he did something that stunned everyone. But what was it? And why did he do it? The man had been ill for some time, but no one thought he would die. One morning, he didn't feel well, so he went to bed early, leaving his loyal German shepherd by his side. When the dog realized his owner was not getting up, he began to whimper and bark, alerting the family that something was wrong. The man's wife went into the bedroom and found her husband was cold to the touch. They called the emergency services, but there was nothing they could do. The man had passed away in his sleep. The family were devastated by their loss. They tried to comfort the dog, but he didn't want to be consoled. He wanted to be with his owner. So he followed the coffin to the graveyard and refused to leave it. For days, the dog waited patiently by the grave, refusing food and water. Every day, he would lay his head on the grave and sigh as if in sadness. People passing by were stunned by the dog's loyalty, and many stopped to pay tribute to the amazing animal. Some even left food and water by the grave in the hope that the dog would eat, but he refused to touch it. After 28 days, the dog was still there, refusing to leave his owner's grave. On the 29th day, something incredible happened. It was nighttime, and everyone had gone home, leaving the dog alone in the graveyard. Suddenly, the dog began to dig furiously at the grave. He dug and dug until his paws were bleeding. Finally, he managed to dig a hole and collapse. Moments later, he began to howl at the top of his lungs. The next morning, people arrived at the graveyard and were stunned to find the dog howling and scratching at the grave. Some people thought this was a sign that the dog was possessed by a demon. But when they saw what he had done, they realized there was a more rational explanation. The dog had dug up his owner's coffin. It was clear that he hadn't meant any harm. He simply wanted to be with his beloved owner. But this is where the story takes a turn, for the worse. A local funeral director found out about the dog and decided to help him. He took the dog back to his yard and looked after him, giving him food and water. But the dog didn't want to eat or drink. He just wanted to be with his owner. After a few days, the dog became very sick and was taken to the vet. At the vet, it was discovered that the dog had worms and other parasites. It was clear that he had been digging in the dirt for so long that he had become infected. The vet gave the dog medicine to kill the parasites and then fed him and gave him water. Slowly but surely, the dog began to get better. But in the back of the man's mind, he couldn't shake off the feeling that his dog had been possessed by a demon. That's because the Bible warns us that there are such things as demons that can possess animals. In Matthew chapter 8, verses 28 to 34, it says, "When he arrived on the other side in the region of the Gadarenes, a man with an unclean spirit came out from among the tombs to meet him. This man lived in the tombs, and no one dared approach him because he was so violent. 'What do you want with me?' he shouted. And Jesus asked him, 'What is your name?' 'Legion,' he replied, 'for we are a multitude that have come out of these tombs.' And so the whole city of the Gadarenes asked him to leave, for they had now become afraid of him. But he said, 'Let us go into the pigs.' And he had them slaughtered, and they all rushed into the lake and drowned. So the man couldn't help but wonder, could his dog really be possessed by a demon? He wondered if maybe the dog wasn't mourning his death, but trying to drag him down to hell. But this is where the story takes another incredible turn. The man took his dog home and kept him inside for several days. He watched him closely, waiting for something strange to happen. But nothing did. The dog seemed like any other normal dog. Then one day the man noticed that his dog was acting strangely. He was pacing around the house and whining. The man followed him and saw that the dog was trying to get out of the front door. The man opened the door, and the dog ran outside. He ran to the car and began barking frantically. The man was confused, but he followed his dog to see what he was looking at. When he got closer, he saw that his dog was staring at a pair of police officers. The dog began barking even louder, and the man called him back. But the dog refused to come. He kept barking and growling at the police officers. The man was worried, but he knew he had to do something. So he called the police and explained the situation. The police came to his house and took the dog away. They took him to the pound, but he refused to go in. He kept barking and lunging at the officers. Eventually, they had to put him in a cage. For days, the man didn't hear from the police. He called them every day, but they said they couldn't find the owner of the dog. He was a stray, and they were going to put him down. The man couldn't bear the thought of his dog being put down, so he went to the pound to look for him. When he found the cage, he was shocked. His dog was cowering in the corner, whimpering. The man went inside and tried to pet the dog, but he flinched and bit the man's hand. The man was hurt, but he knew it was his fault. He had abandoned his dog, and the dog had been through a lot. But the man refused to give up. He visited the dog every day, bringing him food and water. Slowly but surely, the dog began to trust the man again. One day, the dog licked the man's hand, and the man was overjoyed. He knew that he had won the dog's trust back. From that day forward, the man and the dog were inseparable. They played fetch, went on walks, and cuddled on the couch. The dog never had to worry about being abandoned again. Now let's take a look at some of the things that you should never do if you find a lost dog. If you find a lost dog, you should never try to catch it. Even if you have the best intentions, you could end up putting yourself in danger. The dog could be rabid or have other health problems that could make it aggressive. If you must catch the dog, use a net or a trap. Once you have the dog in your possession, take it to the nearest animal shelter or veterinary clinic. And don't forget to call the local animal control office. They will be able to help you locate the owner of the dog. Also, be sure to check the dog for identification tags or a microchip. This could be a great way to reunite the lost dog with its owner. But if you can't find the owner, be sure to give the dog plenty of love and care. A lost dog is probably scared and confused. So be patient and kind, and the dog will eventually warm up to you. And finally, don't give up hope. There are many stories of lost dogs being reunited with their owners. So keep trying, and the happy ending could be yours.